Hey everyone, Kevin here with an April 24th update on the stimulus checks and stimulus packages. First things first, there are a lot of fake stimulus checks going out, and take a look at the quick difference. Here's an example of a fake stimulus check. It looks very convincing with things like stimulus relief program and COVID-19 auto stimulus and then some kind of odd number. And the purpose for the odd number is to get you to call. Usually these forms have some kind of please call if this is different from what you expected, or please call before depositing. And then generally when you call, their goal, the scammer's goal, is to get your social security number, your banking information, and to try to hijack your stimulus. To combat this, if you go to secretservice.gov, you can actually see this press release from the Secret Service, and they tell you about some quick tips for how to identify what a real stimulus check looks like, including things like the Treasury seal, the bleeding ink, the watermark, ultraviolet overprinting. I mean, they've got all sorts of things on here, but this is actually what a real stimulus check apparently looks like. Which you'd think if they're putting this out, somebody might be able to copy this, but apparently the Secret Service is very confident in their security seals here. But anyway, secretservice.gov, and you could compare your check to what the Secret Service says is a real check. In other news, Donald Trump is expected to sign stimulus package 3.5 today at 12 p.m. noon, and there is now talk that the SBA is planning on reopening the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, on Monday morning, which my assumption, and this is just an assumption, is that the EIDL grant program, a lot of us are waiting to check, for like, hey, when can we submit? We're checking that portal like I've been talking about in some other videos. My guess is there's a good chance the SBA might open up the PPP at the same time as they open up the EIDL. So there's an indication we might want to wait until Monday morning before we get excited about the EIDL grant, though you never know. They could trick us. They could say that and then they could unlock it early. So I don't know if that's going to change anything. But Monday morning is the current expectation. Now, a few questions that have been coming up regarding this. One that just continues to come up in the Discord chat, thank you for all of those of you who are posting questions there, is how do I know if my business is a small business? Well, if you think your business is a small business, then it is a small business. Mostly, it's based on a self-certification. So again, you're like a barber, or you make things on Etsy or whatever, and it's a side hustle. You're a small business. And no, you don't have to repay the grant. Yes, there is an EIDL loan. You can apply for the EIDL loan using that same form. What you're really asking for is, hey, I want this emergency injury disaster loan. As part of my application, I'm asking for an upfront advance, which is a grant, free money you don't have to repay. And if I take this grant, I don't have to repay it. I can spend it on whatever I want to, great. If I then get offered a loan in the future, I could say no thank you to that loan, but I get to keep that grant. That's different from the PPP. So the EIDL loan/grant you apply for with that link down below, the COVID-19 website. The PPP you apply for with a bank like Citizens One or Citibank or Chase or Wells Fargo, or go to a local credit union where you might be able to get a little bit more service, or call and see if you can apply online. For example, out here we have a great credit union called Bank of the West. Great, give them a ring. Local banks, try those. So EIDL loan and advance, you click the link. For the PPP, you go to a credit union or bank. And for unemployment insurance, you go to your state's unemployment insurance website. Now, a lot of you are wondering, how do I show payroll if I don't pay myself a clear payroll for the PPP? Generally, banks are supposed to use your 2019 tax return. They look at your adjusted gross income, which is basically your income minus your business expenses, what's left, and then we can look at that number, the AGI, and use that as your payroll. Remember though, a lot of the PPP numbers are based on a self-certification. So you say, hey, my payroll was $10,000 a month. Here is my tax return that shows my adjusted gross income from my business after expenses was $120,000 in 2019. Well, that sounds pretty accurate to me, and it sounds like it makes sense. Just know there's a cap. You can only get PPP funding up to a payroll of $100,000 on a yearly basis. So there's going to be a reduction if you have an example like what I just mentioned. By the way, I noticed this article from about 4 days ago that is a pretty good Q&A. I'm going to post it in the link down below. It gives you some Q&A about kids, child support, direct deposit, and ITINs. Something I thought was interesting is that if you have an ITIN number and your spouse has a social, you both don't qualify for stimulus checks if you file together. And so they actually recommended that if one of you has a social, one of you has an ITIN, that you could actually file separately. Now, because this is pretty niche, I wanted to use this kind of as a Trojan horse to mention something that I thought was really interesting about tax policy. Have you ever heard of the marriage penalty for taxation versus the marriage benefit? Usually when we think of marriage, we think, sweet, we'll get married and our incomes will go down. Well, there are actually a lot of cases where people will get married with similar incomes. Let's say you've got a couple and they're each making $100,000 or each making $125,000, or computer programmers or whatever. They might actually end up paying more money in taxes after they get married. It's called the marriage penalty because their combined income makes them hit certain phase outs, which is crazy that there is a marriage penalty. And so there are actually a lot of couples who won't get married. They'll have like a ceremonial wedding and they won't get married on paper because their taxes would go way up. It would cost them $5,000 to $10,000 a year to get married, which is crazy. But then on the flip side, there are a lot of couples where one spouse has a significantly higher income than the other spouse, and getting married kind of equalizes that a bit more, and you actually end up saving money in taxes. So there's a very interesting kind of difference there between the marriage penalty usually applies to folks with slightly higher than normal incomes where their incomes are the same, and the marriage benefit applies when there's sort of a discongruency between the incomes. One person makes more money than the other person. Generally get a benefit. Obviously, run the numbers. So if you're in the situation with the SSN and the ITIN, run the numbers before you split your taxes. Now, quick note, if you're trying to use the IRS Get My Payment portal, the IRS has just added a note now that says if you receive SSA, railroad benefits, a supplemental security income, or VA benefits, your information is not yet available in the application. So thank you, they finally put that out. That's good to know. We've also got planned outages coming out for the portal on the 23rd, 24th, 25th between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. My hope is that they're finally fixing the system and closing out some of these bugs. So hopefully this means that, come Monday, things will be a little bit more chill on this portal. Given that today is the 24th, maybe they'll be doing some fixes today and tomorrow. And by Monday, we'll be up and running without all these crazy bugs. Which one of the most common reasons we're getting the status cannot determine eligibility is because maybe you just recently filed your 2019 tax return. If you filed electronically, it usually takes them about 3 to 4 weeks to process it. If you filed by paper, no guarantees on this, but there's some rumors that paper tax returns are taking somewhere between 6 to 9 weeks to process right now. So file electronically if at all possible. Maybe that's their way of motivating us to file electronically. Anyway, then we've got a note that if you are a TurboTax customer and you generally get your tax refund via a transfer or debit card, you will get your stimulus payment automatically applied to that account, and you won't have to do anything else. I generally still recommend you use that portal at irs.gov/EIP, but hey, you never know. So that's our quick morning update. Make sure you get your 2 free stocks with Webull. When you deposit $100 with the stock trading platform Webull, you get up to $1,400 in 2 free stocks. Somebody rolled the dice and ended up getting a free Facebook stock in my Discord chat, link down below. Also a great place for you to ask stimulus questions in that Discord chat. A lot of folks helping out in there. Thank you to all of you helping answer questions in there. Also, get your life insurance already. Get your life in order. Get life insurance. It takes you 5 minutes on your phone. You can Apple Pay, super easy. A link down below for that. And of course, join me in my programs where you can finally learn how to build wealth, starting with $0 and finally investing in real estate. You can also join me live every morning at 9 a.m. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.